Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. A lovely way for Celtic to end off their Europa League group stage campaign. A group that, of course, we never made it through. We're into the Conference League. But one that I think we can walk out of with our heads held high. One that we can be very proud of our performances. And tonight, a performance to be especially proud of regarding the fact that we made 11 changes going into it. We're going to dive into all of that. We're going to talk about the game itself, talk a little bit about the context of the now Conference League for us, and everything else in between. So stay tuned and let's get into this. Before we go any further with the video, once again, please, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that big red subscribe button down below. We are now less than 100 subscribers away to 31,000, so please make sure to hit that big button below. If you haven't for whatever reason already, it goes a long way for helping me. And let's do this. 3-2 win tonight for Celtic against Real Betis in the Europa League. It was called a dead rubber game, but my God almighty, if you were there at the game or you watched from home, you know for a fact it didn't feel like a dead rubber. Quite frankly, one of the weirdest games of football I've ever been at in my life. It felt weird from the get-go. You know, we had that sort of 90-minute silence there that we'll talk about a bit more on the podcast tomorrow. We had that sort of vibe of 11 changes, seeing the B team, quite frankly, being put out in the park. Betis also made a lot of changes as well. It was a weird game. It had a sort of friendly vibe to it. It was fun. It was a really fun game of football. There was plenty of goals. There was plenty of entertainment. There was plenty of stoppages. But look, Celtic make 11 changes tonight, and they're going up against a Real Betis side who are one of the best teams in Spain at the moment, one of the top divisions in Europe. A side that's flowing with confidence on red-hot form, still fielding a squad of quality players. And with, you know, Origide playing, Liam Shaw playing, James McCarthy playing, Liam Scales playing, Scott Bain in goals, Celtic walk away the winners of the game, you know, through trying circumstances, but we done it. And I think it's a massive, you know, encouragement for where this club is heading under Ange Postecoglou. It's very encouraging to see what's been happening at Lennox Town. Well, what I assume has been happening at Lennox Town, because every player that played tonight showed a real improvement from what we last seen of them. You know, we've seen very little of some guys, but the likes of Origide, the likes of Scales, the likes of even James McCarthy, names that I've already brought up, you know, we've been seeing them a lot. Not a lot, we've been seeing them bits and bobs, and you know, we've not really had the greatest impressions of them. But tonight they stood up and they held their own against a quality side. They walk away with a win. And that's a real credit to what the manager's been doing with them on the training ground and how they've been developing as football players. So I'm personally very happy about where this club is headed. And look, you can talk all you want if you're not a Celtic fan and saying, you know, if you're a Rangers fan, you're coming on and saying, oh, we're in the Europa League and you're not. Like, we opened this group, and this is something I want to dive into a lot tomorrow. I want to analyse our whole Europa League campaign on the podcast tomorrow, so stay tuned for that tomorrow if you're interested. I want to analyse it all, but when we were handed this group, and the position that Celtic were in when the draw was done, Celtic weren't anywhere near the level we are now. We were handed a very tough group against one of the top sides in Spain, one of the top sides in Germany, and the Hungarian side who were in the Champions League last season and caused us issues in the past. My aim for it was to walk away with a couple of wins against Ferencváros and holding our own against the rest. To get 9 points from the position we were in when this group was drawn is an enormous achievement for Ange Postecoglou when you consider where we were when this draw was done. You consider how we were playing and how we missed out in the Champions League. You know, we were knocked out on our arse by Midtjylland, who were not a great side, and we were piss poor. And we kind of fought hard to get into the Europa League. You know, points that didn't look so certain, but we did. We got there. And then when it was done, you know, it was that question of, Christ, how are we going to hold up? But we held up incredibly well. Yes, that Leverkusen game where we were battered at Celtic Park, we'll take that out of the question for a minute. We beat Ferencváros twice, we beat Betis tonight, we go over to Germany and lose in the last 10 minutes of the game, and we went over to Betis in the opening game of the group, and we were up 2-0 and we held our own, and we walked away with a narrow loss as well. I think that there's an enormous sense of pride to go away with from this group, and I'm very proud of what the players have done and what the manager's done. And the Conference League, bring it on. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be exciting for Celtic to challenge ourselves against some of Europe's best. You know, there's some teams in there. You look at your Tottenham Hotspurs, your Romas. there's some top sides in there. It's going to be interesting to go and see us in that and see how far we can go, and just continuing to watch the growth and development of this Celtic side. But of course, with every Celtic positive, there comes a Celtic negative. And with that win tonight, there was frustrations, and we'll touch on that. And this 3 things we've learned video today, I think, is maybe going to take a bit of a back burner on the 3 things we learned, because we learned a lot tonight. I think you could make a case for every individual player. We learned something about them. Everybody who took to the field tonight, I think we learned a little bit about them. We've seen a progression in players. We've seen things that we've not seen before. We've seen a lot of guys for the first time, really. There was so much we learned from tonight's game, so it's hard to narrow it down to 3 things. But one thing you do learn constantly with Celtic is you can't do it without the negatives. And the injury issues continue to pile up. And we'll come on to that. But let's try and get through the game itself. I thought we were brilliant at points in the game. It was a very scrappy game, a very messy game. Both sides obviously made a lot of changes, and you know, it's very easy for us to go on and gloat about beating a Betis side that wasn't its strongest, but let's not take that away from the accomplishment that those boys set out and got tonight, and the achievements that all of them individually got. You know, it was a real thing to be proud of. And even with Betis fielding a bit of a lesser side than what they usually field, it was still, we can't take away the credit they deserved tonight for going out and winning that game. First half, I thought we looked good. There was points in the game where, you know, we let Betis get in, but I thought, once again, we controlled the game well. And what you're seeing is the style implemented by Ange Postecoglou rubbing off on everyone. There were some players who are taking to it a little better than others. You look at Ayeti, for example, I just don't think he's an Ange Postecoglou player. I think there's other players who are still getting up to speed with it. But you look at some of the younger guys who were brought in tonight, and they're getting up to speed with it. They're obviously picking up what they're meant to be on the training ground. They're learning quickly, and they want to fight for a future under Ange Postecoglou. And tonight was their chance to do that, and they've not let the manager down. They've went out and won the game. They've went out and gave themselves something to be proud of. And look, you see it all rubbing off on them. And I thought you seen real shades of that in the first half. First goal, great from Stephen Welsh from the corner kick. I think Welsh is really making a case for being a player who can offer a lot to Celtic. I've been very critical of Welsh in the past, but the few times recently he's had to come into action, he's done a solid job. And he's a real threat from these corner kicks, which is strange because he's not the biggest of guys in terms of height, but he somehow manages to get himself in amongst it when we have corner kicks. I thought tonight there was a real sort of presence for us from corners, which is odd. You play your B team, and I thought we were a lot better from offensive corner kicks than we are with our strongest team out. I don't know if it was just me that thought that, but I really did think that from corner kicks offensively tonight, we looked a lot better than we usually look. Every time we sent a corner in, I feel like there was a kind of, you were off your seat a little bit. And obviously that right at the start of the game was a fantastic opening, and we set the kind of tone. And, you know, I didn't expect much of Celtic tonight in terms of a result. I really didn't. I was expecting maybe to walk away without the 3 points, a loss or a draw perhaps, because we're fielding the B team. I wasn't bothered by that. But, you know, we get that opening, you're suddenly thinking to yourself, right, we're not here to piss about tonight. We're going to do something. Apart from that, in the first half, you know, we created a few good chances. We looked okay. It was the second half where the action really kicked off, and that's when it started to become a bit of a game. The frustrating thing about the first half, though, is, of course, and what many people are talking about, is bringing on Kyogo Furuhashi. There is this now massive debate on social media. Should Kyogo have came off the bench? In hindsight, of course, no. We should have kept him on the bench, and we should have stopped the injury from happening altogether by doing that. It's so much easier said than done. I don't think we can fault Postecoglou too much for bringing on Furuhashi when he did. He was forced to make the change through an Albion Ayeti injury, and I did say at the time, look, when I seen Kyogo come on, I said to myself, I wish he didn't bring him on. I will be honest in saying that, but you can't blame the manager for bringing on the only other really recognised striker on the bench when we had to see a striker go off. It is unfortunate that he has picked up an injury, but it's a huge slice of just being unlucky, isn't it? You know, it's happened. Hopefully, what Ange just said is we need to get a further assessment. Ayetis doesn't look good, is from what he's saying. Kyogo's needs assessed further. Hopefully that ambulance isn't taking him to the Royal. But it is unlucky. It's incredibly unlucky. And in hindsight, it's all well and good saying that he shouldn't have been brought off. But, you know, he came on and he'd done his job, and it's just unlucky he does go down. I'm frustrated as much as anybody else. And I don't, and I will say that I don't think he should have came on. But I'm not going to hold Ange Postecoglou to that in a sort of negative way, in a critical way. He done what he had to do, and just unluckily, it's happened. Now we just need to cross our fingers, cross our toes, cross every possible bone in your body that can cross, that he is fine, that it isn't a long-term thing, and he's fit and firing for the cup final next week. We'll wait and see what happens with the news on that. Second half, as I said, action kicks off. We get a goal. They get a goal. It was so weird. I really can't put into words how watching that second half was, because it was just so weird. It was entertaining in a way, and it was quite funny to watch it all unfold. But, you know, we fought hard, and there was a real, and that's the thing about this group of other players being out tonight, this group of kind of the second team, if you like. Them being out, they showed a real persistence. They showed a real sort of encouragement every time that, you know, they were on the back foot. They wanted to get back on the front foot. And they didn't give in without a fight. And it's so easy for guys who don't carry as much experience to kind of get caught up in the moment. But we dealt with it really well. When we did concede a goal, we got ourselves picked ourselves back up and got us into the game. Granted, I think both teams had a plethora of chances that they should have taken throughout the game, and it could have been an even bigger scoreline, and there could have been more goals. Betis missed a good few. I'm thinking, how did they miss that? We missed a good few. I'm thinking, how did we miss that? It was such an end-to-end game. It was such a weird second half. It is so hard to kind of put it into one narrative, apart from the fact, weirdest game ever. To run through the goals very quickly and give my opinion to each of them. Their first one in the second half, the goal to make it 1-1, incredibly unlucky for us. Scott Bain was unlucky as well, and the ball hits the back of the net. Our second goal, with Ewan Henderson, first touch of the season, back of the net, super sub. You love to see it, great for his confidence, and I'm happy, I'm chuffed for him. Their second goal, I can't even remember it off the top of my head now. That's it, that's right, poor ball given away, that's it, I remember now. Johnson gives it away, they go through and goal, you can't miss it. And then we get a penalty, and we make it 3-2, and then somehow we hold on towards the end. As I said, plethora of chances for Betis. Tonight, defensively for both teams, was a bit shaky. And I'm seeing a lot of people giving it, I was so impressed by blah, 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 blah. I'm like, let's hold on. It wasn't the greatest defensive performance ever, but I'm happy with what we got for a B team. And I don't think it can be overly critical. We know that we're not going to see a lot more from these guys this season. It'll be back to playing the best now. But with the chance that we're given tonight, look, I'm not going to get over the top about it. I'm not going to say the future's great and we're in great hands with all these players here. We've got a lot more to see of them, but look, they grabbed their chance, they got a win, and that's what matters. However, Mikey Johnson, the patience has run to its absolute thinnest. That chance at the end of the game, what on earth? And I think I'll wrap it up there. It's been a bit of a... We're going to cover it in a lot greater depth and a lot... You know, I'm just back from the game and my head's all over the place. I always hate sitting down directly after the game and doing it because I feel like I've got to collate my thoughts very quickly and try and upload the video very quickly. It's very hard to kind of sit down and structure it in a kind of civilised manner and a nice kind of easy to follow route. So if you have followed it right to this point, thank you very much. I appreciate it. We will be talking about everything. And look, a big shout outs to Origidi. Tonight, yeah, I've seen a lot of people raving about him on Twitter and raving about him in my replies on Twitter. He had a lot of great moments in the game. I thought he was solid with a few of his tackles, interceptions and such. You can still see that rawness in him. He loved getting up the park. He was good at bombing forward. There was a lot of times defensively, he looked a little bit out of position for me, but I'm not going to be overly critical. Scales, I was impressed with as well. I thought he was good. We'll talk about it in a lot greater depth on that podcast tomorrow, so make sure to check it out when it's live on the channel. That'll do it for me this evening. I'm going to go and head into my bed and finish off the Get Back documentary. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all next time.